Welcome to Talking Trail, a podcast with trail runners talking about trail running. Today's episode, we're going to do what didn't happen to what did happen in the running races, a bit on a Prodigio Pro review, and we actually have a great interview lined up with Lyndal Maloney, one of the local big running groups in the Blue Mountains.
Yeah, founder and head coach of Serotonin Running. That's coming up.
Well, welcome, guys.
But
Clearly I'm not in Summit gear, so I'm stuck here at Redfern at the moment. I'll do my best, and hopefully it's the audio is okay, and we can get the first part of the podcast done without too much interruption.
Yeah. So talking about training, Sarah has the first race coming up, so we should talk about your training. How's your trainings going? You've got Buffalo.
Yeah, next weekend there's a few Blue Mountains runners doing it. I think Henry's going for the 20. My husband's going to do the 20. Jez, I'm going to do the 42-kilometre marathon. I think Michael Dunstan's doing the 100K.
Yeah, Mike's doing the big one.
Sorry to anyone else who is doing it and we haven't said your name. Put it on Instagram, on Summit Gear, and we can do a shout out. But yeah, it should be really fun.
It's a tough run. That was the one that I've done both the Buffalo Slam and the Ultra Slam, and I think it was the Ultra Slam that just about killed me. It was rocking up after doing 100 Ks the day before to go do another 42 kilometres was pretty brutal. A lot of elevation, some very big hills, bigger than what we have around the Blue Mountains, I think. So I think the 100K has about 5,000 metres of elevation, so it's getting up there. It's a good one, Sarah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll be great.
Just want to have a good time.
Yeah, some of those climbs, like there's what is Warner's Wall, mixed track. They're like, I don't know what the percentages are, but there's certainly more than what we're used to up here.
Yeah.
And I've seen people passed out on mixed track.
They give you a lot more mandatory gear, like it's an ice cooling, the T81 of that. They're kind of really more strict with water, what you need to carry. So I think they are trying to avoid people passing out a bit more nowadays. How about you guys? How's your training going?
Well, I was really keen and excited to do 6 foot.
Yeah.
And so I was one of the disappointed people, along with so many others that cancelled or postponed, I should say. Great news released a couple of days ago that they're going to reschedule it for the 6th of September. I know it's always hard to find a clean spot on their race calendar, but, I'm just so excited, so happy that they were able to get agreement from everyone and be able to put it on again so that we didn't miss 2025. So now we just need to stay fit for that.
Yeah.
We've all got different events around that time. I think a lot of people, I was in a chat last night about, Sydney marathons for some people has just become a training run.
Yeah.
A last taper hit out.
It's a solid taper hit. I don't know if I'd call that a taper hit out, but yes.
And then Hounslow's just after.
Yeah.
So 6 foot will be their training run. If I'm doing the Lonely Mountain Ultra, Isla, then 6 foot will be a training run for me for that. A good hit out. So
a strong September.
Yes.
As it turned out, I was lucky in some ways. I mean, I was disappointed that it wasn't on, and I was really looking forward to doing it. But on the Wednesday before the race, I came down with the flu, and by Saturday, I was flat out in bed with shivers and fever and stuff, and I don't think I would have been able to get to if I'd turned up to the start line, it would have been pretty ugly anyway. I guess from that perspective, I'm glad that it's moved to September. I certainly share a lot of people's disappointments. It was interesting in the email that the 6 foot track committee sent out that they've changed the way that they're going to do the aid stations to, I guess, lessen the chances of another cancellation. I'm not sure what that's all about, but be interesting to see whether that means there's going to be less aid stations and maybe we all have to wear vests again. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Good luck next week, Sarah.
Thank you. And to anyone running out there next week, should be a good weekend for everyone.
Yeah, and it's a really busy time for races. So we've got Buffalo. The following week, we'll have Ridgy Didge. And then in the week after that is Mount Solitary, Running Wild's Mount Solitary Ultra. So, it's a busy few weeks coming.
So for anyone that wants to get race fit for the Mount Solitary Ultra, come and join us on our Sunday long runs. It'll be great. Be awesome. Get to test out our theories about poles and stuff, Rob.
Yeah. So we are going to do some more experimenting. So we're going to do one week. We'll do that run without poles, all of us. and then we'll back it up the following week with poles, and then just see what the difference is. Rob has a supposition that that he's a better runner without poles, and I think that I will go better with poles going back up Kadumba and also climbing the east face of Mount Solitary.
So if I feel like with the race I can actually run it, I don't generally think, well, I don't need poles. If it gets to a point where the race is going to be very long and very hilly, then poles to me are, they just save my legs for the hills. And
Sarah, where do you lean in terms of poles?
No poles, but I only run under 50 Ks, but no poles. I prefer to just scramble with my hands. I don't know, with the poles.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see.
Well, I'll just talk about one of the other experiments that we had been working on. So we had the running with the new Prodigio Pros, and we'd been talking it up and taking names for the 6 foot comparison. So, testing the hypothesis of your 5K time can translate to ultramarathon time. So obviously we didn't get a chance to do that because we might have to do the take times again at Lawson Park Run, so we can do it in the same month, or it's like a fortnight period, and then do it again. So we'll be doing that back in sort of late August, early September. But another experiment that we did do was testing out the new super shoe, the Prodigio Pro, where we wanted to see what a difference having a shoe like that, a super shoe, what results that would give us. So we did 2 weeks in a row at Lawson Park Run, one with other shoes, and then we did it with the Prodigio Pros.
We've got a series of reviews, and we thought we'd start off with the La Sportiva Prodigio Pro. So the La Sportiva Prodigio Pro is La Sportiva's first trail running super shoe. To be clear, it does not have a carbon plate, but it does have a nitrogen-infused foam that seems to give the shoe a much different feel, and we thought it'd be a great opportunity was to do a detailed review. It's a great review. We give our initial impressions. We're lucky enough that we have a customer that's done over 600 kilometres, so that's Michael Dunstan, a rather elite runner. He's got some big races this year, and he's been training in the La Sportiva Prodigio Pros, so we thought it'd be good to see how the shoe's holding up after those sort of kilometres. And then we have something really special, which is Rob, Sarah, and myself lining up at the local Lawson Park Run. And we do it 2 weeks in a row. So the first week we lined up in our regular shoes, and the second week we line up at the Lawson Park Run all wearing our La Sportiva Prodigio Pros. And it's interesting to see what results we get, but you're going to have to wait to the very end to see what they are. So with that said, here's our La Sportiva Prodigio Pro review. Well, here we are. We've just received the first delivery of the La Sportiva Prodigio Pro. And before I get into the detailed review, let's quickly go through the specifications of this shoe. First impressions, pull out the shoe, it feels incredibly light. It weighs 255 grams for a size 42, which is pretty light for a trail shoe. Let's start from the bottom and work our way up. So the most important part of the shoe is definitely the tread. We can see here we have 4mm lugs. These are the lugs that are on the La Sportiva Prodigio, but they're a little bit deeper on the Prodigio Pro, so expect extra grip and extra durability out of these lugs. And certainly it's designed not only to run fire trails, but definitely technical terrain based on the look of those lugs. We can see that it's got La Sportiva's Friction White X rubber, which is their stickiest rubber. It exists on other La Sportiva shoes that I've used, and it's definitely one of the stickiest rubbers that I've ever run in any trail shoe. So we look at the now at the midsole. So this is where this shoe is really differentiated from all the other sort of trail shoes that I've seen. It has a nitrogen-infused TPU midsole, which is meant to give this far superior energy rebound, and certainly something I'm looking forward to testing out on the downhills to see how this shoe performs. If we look at the upper here, it has what they call a power wire mesh upper. It looks very breathable. It actually looks really durable. And it's going to be interesting to see how this holds up over the lifetime of the shoe. I mean, this is going to be a more expensive shoe, and definitely we're going to want a shoe that is that's designed to last a fair amount of time to maximize people's investment that they put into it. It has a debris collar around the top of the shoe. I think that's great. I love that sort of thing, keeping stuff out of the shoe. Important for races like 6 foot track, where you're running through the Cox's River. Quite often, if you don't have this sort of thing on your shoe, you'll end up with a whole lot of debris in your shoe, and trying to get that debris out when your feet are all wet in the middle of a race is really something you want to avoid. So overall, the shoe looks really good. It has a 6mm drop, so the heel is 6mm higher than the forefoot, and yeah, let's go give this shoe a workout on the trails. Okay, so here we are. I've got my Prodigio Pros on. I'm getting a really good lockdown with the lace. That's great. When I jump around, they feel really, really springy. Definitely feel quite different from all the other trail running shoes that I've used. And I guess it'll be interesting to see how they perform on a run. Let's give it a go. Okay, so I'm at the start of the trail here in the Blue Mountains. I have run about 1 kilometre from where I had to park the car. Did a bit of road running on the way to here, and I've got to say, the one thing I did notice is that the energy return of the foam feels really like something special. It just feels really reboundy. When I was running down a downhill, it felt like a really, really good shock absorber. So, you know, I'm not getting any younger. Anything that can make my knees feel a little bit better, I'm all for. So let's see how we go. So this is one of my favourite loops that I do here in the Blue Mountains. About a 9k run. It's really very trained. Some really steep downhills and uphills. Some really pretty single track. Quite slippery in places. Other places are reasonably dry. And it really is a great circuit to test out how a trail shoe performs through all varied sorts of terrain. Well, here we are back where we started, and first thing I noticed was the first downhill. It's actually been graded recently, and we've had a lot of rain, and on the surface it's actually like really slippery clay, and it was pretty sketchy, and I needed every aspect of those lug depths to stop me going tee over A. So yeah, it was great that I had some decent lugs to help me get down that first part. Once I got past all the sloppy stuff, that's when I really noticed heading down that downhill just how good these shoes are. Like, the confidence they give you just to bomb it downhill and absorb all that shock is quite amazing. The shoes feel really, really fast. That's all I can say. It's the best way to describe it, is they just feel fast. You'll see that I did some technical stuff. Grip was fantastic. Apparently they wrapped the midsole up around the side of the shoe to give it extra stability. They certainly felt very stable. I guess I expected with a super shoe that maybe you might get that spring, but you might be at the expense of stability, and definitely that's not what I felt. They felt really good, and yeah, I would certainly trust them to any sort of technical running around here in the Blue Mountains. So as part of the last Sportiva Prodigio Pro review, I thought it'd be great to get some insight for someone who's actually done 600 kilometres in the shoe. So here's my chat with Mike Dunstan, a rather elite runner in the trail running community here in the Blue Mountains. So Mike, welcome to Talking Trails. It's been a little while since we've chatted on this.
Yeah, it's the first time on the potty for a while.
You've got Buffalo coming up, and then you've got some bigger plans for the rest of the year. You want to tell us what they are?
Yeah. So first up on the 29th of March is the Buffalo Stampede 100, which was, definitely planned as a B race, just to try out things for UTMB later in the year. I feel like I've been really excited about Buffalo that it almost hasn't felt like a B race plan, but yeah, I guess it's to try new things and to try get faster and fitter before UTMB, which is going to be great experience regardless of what happens.
UTMB, wow. So that's pretty exciting. We'll keep in touch with you as you head into UTMB. I'd love to track how you're going. So part of the podcast, we're doing a review of the last Sportiva Prodigio Pro, and I've got to say, from my perspective, it's the reason this shoe really got my attention was it was quite different from every other shoe that I tried on, tested, that people had showed me. Obviously, owning an outdoor trail running shop, you get to see a lot of different products, and this one was the one that was really that moment where I went, wow, this feels quite different. And I remember when they arrived into the shop, actually that day you came into the shop, and I was talking to you about them, and there you go, you went and handed over some cold hard cash and bought a pair yourself. So I wanted to get your perspective of them. I mean, you're obviously pretty hardcore trail runner. You're up, you're at the pointy end of the game. I'm sure equipment's pretty important to you. And I just wanted to get your perspective that, how many kilometers you've run in them, what's your view, how do they stack up against others, just in terms of other shoes that you've been running in. I'd just love to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah. So you're spot on. I was very coincidentally in the store when they arrived, and I slipped one on my foot, and you notice how good the upper feels on your foot and how secure your foot feels without tying the laces up, which for me is always like a really good sign that a shoe is going to be good on technical terrain, is that, the upper really does seem to, I guess, like hug your foot, but then it has a wide toe box. I've got kind of probably like a medium to wide foot. And that for me was like, oh, wow. Like, so yeah, I got a pair, and my idea was, being like, I guess, more of a premium shoe. I was like, oh, like I'll just use it for some sessions and see if it's good for races. And I ended up like just using it for basically most of my training block. So one pair didn't last me long. I'm still running in it, but in terms of like I was hoping to preserve it as a race shoe, and I've definitely done over 600 Ks in it, and I'm still running in it this week.
In terms of just its durability, how it's holding up, what's your, so the shoe's got the Power Wire upper, which is a fancy name, but looks like a pretty durable upper. I'm pretty keen to see how that's holding up after 600 kilometers, and also tell us a bit about the tread and the whole shoe in terms of how you feel it's performing.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, like straight away, like the type of terrain I've been running on is good context. So like I will run it on fire trail like Kadumba, but then I've also found that, it's a shoe where I can do a session on Kadumba or a long run, but I can also go run technical terrain like solitary Lockleys. I've run Lockleys and solitary a fair bit in them, and I feel confident in them. And I've been fairly I haven't been looking after them. Like I've been going into the really techie trails, and so the upper, like there's no signs of wear in the upper. It's like there's no holes or anything. There's no like fraying or anything like that, which is like really awesome. The grip is probably the most impressive part for me. Like I thought maybe like when it comes, it's pretty heavy duty grip, like which I really like because it does mean you can feel confident on like the more technical terrain. But the grip on it's still great. Like I would still be able to take that shoe out into technical terrain and feel like I've got like a good amount of lug depth still, but also it's a really like grippy. So I've been impressed, like super impressed with that. And then in terms of the cushioning still, like I was worried with it being like, some people say super shoes, like the foam can go dead, blah, blah, blah. But like I ran on them narrow neck yesterday in them, and I feel like it's super like comfortable to run in still and cushion. So I guess having a new pair now, I can notice the difference. Like one I've done 60 Ks in, one I've done 600. Like there should be a difference, but they feel different. One doesn't feel bad or another, but the newer one feels poppier.
My initial experience with just running down hills and stuff was it just seemed to absorb a lot of shock, and so not only did the foam rebound really well, but it really did absorb shock in such a way that I felt that I could really attack down hills a lot more than what I've been able to in other shoes that I've worn. So I was interested to see whether that would hold up over like long distances and you'd still have that feel, or whether the shoe would go dead. But it's great to hear that after 6 Ks you still feel like the shoe is performing well and hasn't lost all its super.
Yeah, definitely. Like I think I was initially worried about that too, and that's why I wanted to be a bit more conservative about it. But then, there's been lots of fast downhill running in it too, and it still feels good. So I think it's an incredibly durable shoe. Like I wouldn't go, if you're purchasing one, or if even like me grabbing my new one now, I'm like, I was initially like, should I be saving it for a race? Whereas now I'm like, I'll put 100, 150 Ks into the new one and not worry about it going, any bit dead or anything. So
for race day. Yeah, that's good. I was planning to use them on 6 foot. That got cancelled, so I didn't get to use them then. I've done a couple of speed tests in them, which we'll have in this podcast later on. And but now I'm saving them for Mount Solitary Ultra, which I think will be in my view, would be the perfect race for that shoe. I mean, a good technical, but plenty of fire trail, lots of hills, lots of technical hills, lots of fire trail hills. I think that would be the ideal shoe for that sort of race.
Yeah, I think that's where it shines for me, because I was trying lots of different shoes before hopefully racing Buffalo, and I was interested in like all the carbon plate hype and things like that, and so I've got a varied, I guess, like shoe quiver that I've been trying out. And when I took them all over to Buffalo, I just realized that like if the trail was mixed, like maybe the Prodigio is like a couple, like this tiny fraction, maybe it doesn't have like the speed that another one has, but how good it feels underfoot and how good it feels descending, even if it's technical. I feel like you just gain that time in other areas of the course. So that's where I think, as soon as it gets into a mixed variety of terrain or a bit longer, I think it's just, I thought there was worlds of difference between that and the other shoes. I was thinking, like, will this shoe feel good for 100 Ks? And I couldn't have a good answer for that. And then when I put the Prodigio on and doing the course recce, I was like, I could run a miler in this shoe and it still feels really fast. So that was like an important thing for me.
Oh, that's excellent. So I want to thank you for coming on and giving us a bit of your time. Because it's not often when you look at shoe reviews that they give you a perspective when they've just got them out of the box, the shoes are brand new, but no one's done 600 kilometres in them. But it's great insight to give us of how the shoes are holding up over the longer term. If you're going to hand over some, a decent amount of money for a high-end pair of shoes, you want to know that they're going to be with you for some time.
Yeah, and I think that's a thing to note too, is that, like, I say the word 600 Ks, but it's like in this block, I feel like I've been targeting like around, if for every 100 Ks I'm running, I'm probably running 5,000 meters of elevation. So there's like probably 600 Ks with 30,000 meters of up and down in them, and the shoes are in great condition. So it's like, it's 600 Blue Mountains Ks, which is a lot different to like if you just were on a rolling fire trail. So I think that's testament to like they're built for mountain running, and that's really nice to know, especially like when you said I've had other good shoes which last for 300 Ks, but I'll never buy them again because the turnover of money is just so expensive.
Thanks for your time, and thanks for your insights. Good luck with Buffalo. Let us know how you go. I'm sure we'll find out. We'll be following you anyway. Yeah, have a good race. Yeah. All the best.
Cheers, Rob. Thanks so much. Have a good day.
All right, take care, mate. Bye. Here we are at the Lawson Park Run. We did hard park run last week in our old running shoes, and the test today is we're going to do it in the new La Sportiva super shoes, the Prodigio Pro, and there they are now. We're sporting the shoes. They feel amazing, and we're going to see if we can get a better result and whether we can work out whether these shoes make a difference. For those that don't know, the park run is a trail race. It's got a little bit of hills. It's quite technical in parts, and should be a really good test to see how these super shoes perform. Nice to see you got your shoes on, Rob.
Yep.
Bring your race pace today.
Try.
Yeah. Okay. I expect to see you at the start, at the front.
Yeah.
Sarah's ready. You warmed up? Got the shoes on?
How are you?
I'm a bit anxious. I'm going to do myself an injury.
On your mark, go!
Nice warning. So straight to the front of the pack, and to see that Sarah's not hanging around. The strategy at this point really is to see how long I can hang with her. The very first part of the course is fairly flat. You go around the first corner and then there's a slow gradual rise as you head up to the first turnaround point. We approach the first turnaround point. It's about 500 metres into the race. I'm still with Sarah. As we head out, we start to then head back up a hill, and she starts to open up a bit of a gap. As we run up the hill, you can see Rob to the side, heading to the turnaround point himself. So back onto the flat grasslands. We've just done the first kilometre in 3 minutes 42. We're going to head around the corner, cross a stream, and then head up a hill, which makes the park run such a beast. As we run up the hill, Sarah's disappeared, and Elijah Gosby, one of the young guns of the Blue Mountains running scene, runs past me. Okay, we've completed the hill. We're heading out on the second out and back. The second kilometre was done in 4:32, and my max heart rate was 162.
Hello. Rob.
Okay, this is the third out and back. The good news here is most of the climbing is done by this stage. You're going to see Sarah and Elijah run past me. Good news is that I'm still on the same segment as them, and Yeah, pushing hard as we start to head towards the downhill. Okay, 3 kilometres in. Third kilometre was 4 minutes 11 pace. Not bad considering there was a fair bit of climbing in that third kilometre. Okay, we're heading back down the hill. Got to say, this is where the Prodigio Pros really shine, giving you the confidence just to bomb it down that hill and absorb all the shock. Okay, we're back on the last out and back. There goes Elijah and Sarah doing cracking time. The fourth kilometre was completed in 3 minutes 49 seconds. Okay, this is the push to the finish line, slightly uphill, makes it quite painful. Pretty keen to get this one finished and push hard right to the very end. The last kilometre was done in 4 minutes and 6 seconds, with a total time for the Lawson Park run of 20 minutes 39 seconds.
Let you get your breath.
Well done, Rob. Sarah, what time did you get?
19.
Is that a PB? Nice.
Yes. Good job. Thank you. Your wise counsel has helped.
He was just jogging along.
Yes,
How'd you go, Rob?
Casually, like, what pace do you want?
24:40.
How does that compare?
I know.
Yes.
A little bit, you know. Very nice.
A minute, too fast.
Yeah. Well done. Nice.
Just a hard touch muscle. She did, yeah.
Are you happy with how you read?
I read stupid. So I took off fast. And then just trying to hang on, you know.
Yeah, it's hard that one.
Maybe these guys for a bit,
Yeah.
and then hill, so I took off, and then it's like, Lee came, I was like, okay, I'll hang on to his rubber band for a while.
Yeah.
I got away, and then Clive came past. Hang on to Clive, you know, so I was
Well, you're just getting back into it as well. You did good.
going hard.
Nice.
And
Means
then
you got to do it a few
last
times.
K, I just didn't want to be overtaken.
Okay, so the park run's done, and I thought I'd share with you the results between our old trail shoes and the Prodigio Pros. First of all, we'll just start in order. Sarah, in the previous week, she did the Lawson Park Run in 2033, and this week completed in 1953. A PB, Sarah, well done, which represents a 3.2% improvement. For myself, in the old trail shoe, I did a 21:13, and with the Prodigio Pro this week, did a 20:39. That's my fastest time this year and my second fastest overall, representing a 2.7% improvement. And then Rob had done a 25:31 in his old trail shoes, and in the Prodigio Pros did a 24:40. So Rob got a percentage improvement of 3.3%. So overall, our average improvement was 3.1%. You can take that for what it is. I mean, the three of us turned up. We tried as hard as we could in the old trail shoes. We tried as hard as we could the following week in the Prodigio Pros, and we got a fairly consistent improvement. Was that all to the shoes? I'm not sure. All I can say is that the shoes do feel fast and they do feel superior to the other trail running shoes that I've run in. Where does this leave us? I guess the way I'm dealing with this is I do a lot of running. I have a lot of different shoes going at any particular point in time. I will definitely be using my regular trail running shoes for most of my training runs, and I'll be saving the Prodigio Pros for race day. I think unless you're trying to do a personal best or you have some milestone that you're really, really driving for and you need everything to go your way to achieve it, then a regular trail shoe I think is absolutely fine. If you are trying to do a PB, if you are trying to get to the front end of the race or achieve a specific milestone in anything, then I would seriously consider the Prodigio Pro. They feel like they're a shoe that could help you with your overall performance on top of the training that you're doing. So there you go. There's the summary of the Prodigio Pro. Well, I hope you enjoyed the La Sportiva Prodigio Pro review. For the second half of this podcast, Sarah and Rob are talking to Lyndal Maloney. So Lyndal Maloney is the founder, head coach, owner of Serotonin Running. Has done an amazing amount of positive work particularly with females in the trail running community, and we thought it was a great opportunity to have a chat with her and get her perspective on all things trail running. So here's the interview with Lyndal Maloney from Serotonin Running.
Welcome, Lyndal.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
We've been trying to get you onto this podcast for a while, so it's really great that we could make it happen today. So tell us a little bit about yourself, so how you first got into running and then into trail running.
So I guess I ran a little bit when I was at school in cross country, but I didn't do any other sports really, because I was your typical teenager who stopped doing sport, didn't like getting sweaty and didn't like the physical side of things. But when I went to uni, I got back into things and played a lot of different sports there because it was very social, very fun. And I met a guy there who teased me a little bit and said I probably couldn't, run 5Ks or something like that. So we all went for a run, and I thought, oh yeah, I like this. This is great. This is pretty easy. So I started running a bit more continuously there. I married the guy who teased me. Yep. I just ran doing some, Sydney Morning Herald Half Marathon, it used to be called. Lots of road running, but probably not really into trail running, maybe until I was about 30, I think, which was a little while ago. We moved to the mountains, and I live right by Blue Gum Swamp, so that was my home turf for trail running. So kind of just got more involved, when I turned about 30, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
So really, correlated with the move to the mountains.
For sure. Yep, for sure.
All these wonderful trails that we've got in the lower and mid mountains.
Yeah. And, we spent a lot of time canyoning and rock climbing and mountaineering. And I guess when kids came along, running became also a whole lot easier and, easier to manage. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how did that lead to serotonin?
So I guess I started serotonin running in 2016, but I'd spent years before that running on Tuesday afternoons with a guy called Rob Spilling. I don't know if you know Rob.
Yeah.
Yep. So
another Rob.
Yeah, another Rob. So Rob used to give up his time every Tuesday afternoon
at Tom Hunter Park.
Park, yeah. He'd coach a bunch of runners, and I went with a really good friend, Melissa. Just really enjoyed doing that. Met Brendan from up coaching there. So Brendan also started training with Rob, and then Brendan started up coaching, and I then trained with him for a while. So kind of learnt a lot about, or got, I guess, more involved in group training sessions and running with other people, but then had a bit of a midlife career change and thought I kind of really like this side of the sport. And there was a need for a more, I guess, female-centric coaching group. People were asking me to help them coach. And a lot of, when you look at the bigger picture in Australia and other coaches, they weren't really helping women, coaching around their hormonal fluctuations, stages of life, and you do need to train a little bit differently. So I had a really good chat with Jo Nevin, actually. I think Summit Sisters had finished by then, I'm not sure, but I also helped Jo out a little bit with Summit Sisters, and she was really positive about it all and gave me a bit of help at the start and a lot of advice, and just did it. Yeah, just got started, registered a business, got coaching accreditation with Athletics Australia, and started some group training sessions. And it just has built from there.
It's very inspiring what you've done, especially for the amount of women that in the mountains particularly like to go to your training. And what I've noticed specifically is you've really been able to get so many people that may never have done a trail run to do some amazing races. Would you say what are your tips with all that? Because you've really been able to be quite successful with just getting so many people in different ways, but to kind of do some quite big races and then running quite consistently.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of women, just to start running, they think, I can't run. It's too challenging. It's too difficult. I don't have the time. I'm not fast enough. But once you see someone who's like you, so not an elite athlete, but someone who is like you, who does go out and do, a 50K ultra. Like myself, I'm a mediocre, middle of the pack runner. And to go out and do a 50K race is it's a hard thing to do, but it's pretty achievable. So the more you see, it's like with your kids, the more they see someone doing something, they think they can do that. So the more we do and the more women that do races, other women go, yeah, okay, I'll give that a go. which I guess is true for any kind of running group. But yeah, possibly that's the big factor. Yeah, I think I answered your question.
Yeah, no, you definitely did. And I see that there's a whole lot of people doing different runs and they end up being, getting like-minded people. But for all the ones that are mostly guys, it can be a bit intimidating for some of the ladies that want to jump in and would love to do that run. But it's like, I don't want to be the only female that turns up. Whereas, you're clearly offering some pretty epic stuff and some pretty cool weekly runs, in what may be considered a more comfortable environment. And then as they progress, they might actually. Do you find that? Do you find people sort of come and they might be a bit timid about or lacking confidence in what their true ability is, but then you're pointing that out and saying, because I say that all the time to people, it's like, go to the finish line of like UTA 100 or UTA 50, and there's people that are all ages and all shapes and sizes getting it done and with a big smile on their face. Not everyone has to be built like a Adonis or an elite marathoner to do some really cool stuff. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a good point. I think one of the very first trail races I ever did was the Running Wild Wentworth Falls trail race when it was on the Charles Darwin track. And I turned up to that race. So I'd done some road running before, and I turned up to that race and I sat in my car for about 20 minutes because I looked at everyone and I thought, I don't belong here. They all look super fast and fit, and what am I doing here? I don't have the right gear. And I almost turned around and went home. But I did the race, and I did it really well. And I didn't come last. I probably came, higher up the pack than I thought I would have. So it was a really good lesson in, not, judging people by what they look like. It takes all kinds, short, tall, skinny, not so skinny, doesn't really matter. And when going back to, your question before, when you see people like that, then it gives you a lot of confidence to, do that kind of stuff. Yeah.
What do you think makes the difference when you've, from all the people you've coached, when they kind of do those races to the best ability that they can and they have those kind of successful outcomes? Is there a bit of a secret sauce with the ones that do to the ones that don't?
Oh, the secret sauce. I can't give away my secrets.
What you are willing to give away.
No, it's obviously easier the more you do, the easier it becomes. Even though the racing doesn't become easier, the whole process and the confidence that you build in yourself and your abilities becomes much easier to bottle and take that out into a race or an event. But yeah, I'm not sure.
Do you offer, so you do a training program and you have weekly sessions? Is that kind of the main thing, or you offer other things as well?
Yes. So I have athletes who just come to training, who come to training and run a little bit so they can go to coffee afterwards. I have athletes who are training for things and they'll just use, I guess, the group training session as a bit of a speed session and then go and do their other thing. And I have athletes who I coach, so I will write their programs for them. Some of them come to my training sessions, some of them don't. I've got athletes who are all around the country, so not just in the mountains. And I don't do any selling of programs. So I don't go, here you go, here's a UTA 50 program, because that's fraught with danger in terms of, not being able to help the athlete when something goes wrong. So I guess that's one of the biggest things is that's what you get when you get a coach is if things don't go to plan, life gets in the way, injuries happen, whatever, a coach is there to say, right, we'll change your plan. Don't worry, we'll sort it out. Which is one of the biggest reasons why I think athletes get a coach is to have someone in their corner helping them make those decisions. So,
and it's all distances from a 10K trail to a UTMB equivalent. What's your...
so I have runners who have never run before and they turn up, and I have a beginner runner program. So our goal is in about 10 weeks to go from nothing to 5Ks maybe, or 30 minutes. But with the beginners, I'll have athletes who haven't done any sport their entire life and they're 45. So it might take them a little bit longer. And then I'll have other runners who, you know, they'll get to 5Ks in 10 weeks and then they'll gradually move on to other events. So that's one end. And then I've got athletes who are training for milers, trail milers, and then everything in between. Lots of trail races all around the country and road running as well. Yeah.
So inspiring, particularly for those people that have just, if they've never run and you're saying mid-40s to start doing that, like how healthy is that for their lifestyle?
Yeah.
So it's really cool to kind of see that that part of the community. Sounds like is there more of those people coming to you? Is that kind of trend getting bigger? Or
it's so we've kind of pulled back a little bit with our beginner runners because we were getting so many athletes who are now progressing through, you know, 5Ks. Some of those who started 6 years ago are now doing ultra marathons, which is pretty awesome to see.
Awesome.
It's sort of a natural progression, isn't it? Everyone sort of goes 5, then it's 10. Oh, maybe I can do a half marathon, and then I've done that. Oh, maybe I can do a marathon now, and it's maybe I can do a 50K. Maybe I did that. I enjoyed it. Maybe I can train for 100. Like, do you find that too? Like
So it's kind of been the last maybe 3 years where I'm getting more athletes who are now stepping up to ultra marathons. Yep. So, which is a really hard thing in the sport because we have, you know, when you look at race statistics in the ultra marathon distances, you know, you could have 10 to, if you're lucky, about 25% female participation. So it's pretty exciting when I see my athletes, doing these.
Yeah, the pipeline of more women coming into the sport is huge.
Yep.
I was actually 2 nights ago looking at there was a study done that was pretty huge. It had over 5 million participants. So it was like a full meta study and it was released in 2023. But in all the stats, but they had all the stats and a leaderboard by country for all these different things. And they were saying that female participation for Australia as a percentage of the population and as a percentage of runners in total who participate in races from 5K to ultra, Australia was third. For female participation, which was really great. I mean, the numbers, it wasn't anywhere near 50%, and depending on the race distance as to what those mixes were, but it was each year it was increasing. It was 1 or 2%. It was like mid-30s, I think. Yeah.
Who were the top 2 countries?
Germany, France, and Germany. And then Australia was third. Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty good outcome for us. I've even noticed it. I've only been doing trail running for probably a decade, but like the amount of women and the depth of the field is just, it's growing. Every race you come up to, there's more women at the front, there's more women in the middle, there's more women at the back. You know, it's cool to see.
Yeah. And I think because the sport has just taken off over the last 10 years. So when I first started, you know, there was hardly any women doing the longer stuff. But races like UTA, providing those shorter distances, and then, you know, people do it and go, yeah, that wasn't too bad, I'll try the next one. Yeah, that was all right, I survived that. Maybe I'll do the 50 next year. So, you know, in 10 years' time, it's going to be phenomenal. Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, with that. So what are the kind of mental barriers you kind of help your athletes overcome for some of these longer races?
In the races themselves?
Yeah, how do you help with that mental game for the race?
Yeah. Generally, like the hardest thing is the mental prep before the race, and dealing with everything, because it's not just the race they're getting ready for. Generally, it's, you know, like any athlete, life goes on around them. But in terms of, we have a few little tools that I give them to use depending on what they're battling with. So some runners don't have any mental issues at all or any problems, or they know how to problem solve because they're much more experienced. But the newer runners, we use a few little techniques. I don't know if you've heard of RISE.
No.
Basically it's just problem solving, everyday life problem solving, recognising it, putting it to the side, working out, already having a plan of what your problem solving strategy would be. It might just be have a chat to the next runner who comes along, or smile and appreciate what you're doing, and then moving on. So not mulling over things. So I don't. Rob, you've done ultras. You probably have had moments where you've been
you met the devil.
thinking about your DNF for 2 hours. Yep, and how? Yep.
How you will DNF?
Yep. And hating the race director and thinking of ways of torturing the race director because you're hating everything so much. So yeah, we spent a lot of time on that, on just going, okay, that's how I'm feeling. Let's get rid of that. Let's focus on something else. Yeah, yep. That's just one little tool. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the more races you do, I think you just get better at that. Like I've noticed it in some races, you can just have these periods where you're just like, oh, this is going terribly. I'm going to quit. I'm finishing. And then it's just amazing how the smallest thing, someone coming up and giving you, even some bypass giving you a cheer, or someone running next to you, even Coca-Cola past 30 Ks is always it's amazing the things that can just throw you, and then you have the best end of race and you're just like, oh my gosh, there was a whole portion where I was just not going to even finish, and then you finish and you're so happy. So it is amazing, the roller coaster.
Sure is.
Well, that's why I use my mantra is this too shall pass.
Oh yeah,
because it's appropriate for both the good times and the bad times. So when you're feeling really, really good and you're going, I can go faster because I'm just feeling so great. And you go, no, this is going to pass. You're going to go to a low. And then when you're in a real low, there's like, this too shall pass. Like in 20 minutes, you get some food in 20 minutes' time, you'll feel better, or get a gel in or whatever. So I find that so true, that. Yeah.
It's pretty incredible what athletes, like the lows that they have, and you think, how did you even finish that race? Because you were pretty bad, and yet they still pick themselves up and get through the event. Yeah,
I suppose that's one of the good things about trail races is that often between checkpoints, especially in the bush, there's nowhere to bail. Right?
Yeah, sometimes.
Like if I quit, I'm not just going to flag down an Uber. It's like, okay, I'm quitting. Like these blisters are hurting too much, or my hammy feels funny, or my stomach feels funny, or whatever. Okay, well, I'm just going to have to walk to the next aid station, which is another 11 kilometres. And then you get passed by some people who you start chatting with, and then you start running with them, and you've forgotten that, actually, I was feeling bad back there. I wanted to quit. And then you're in a positive again, and it's like, oh, well, I may as well just keep running to the end.
Exactly. Yep.
So I think there would be a lot more DNFs if a lot of ultras were alongside, or only like you sort of...
Like the road races.
Yeah, like the road races, where you go, I could drop out really easily there. Because, it's certainly not different to like a 24-hour track race.
Yeah.
where you're like, I just step off the track and I'm done, Whereas,
and for a lot of runners, being out in nature is the reason why they're doing it. Sometimes when I'm in a lull, just like kind of trying to enjoy the beauty of the nature you're in and just get out of your head a bit is good, and let it pass, and then you can get back into it.
I did that once to a guy I was coaching, and he was feeling really bad, and it was a backyard ultra, and I said, every time you feel like quitting, just go out for the next lap, and because you had to have your phone with you. So I said, take some photos. Take at least 3 photos on your next lap, and just enjoy how amazing it is where you are, like how beautiful it is, how good the scenery is. And it just got them to keep going because it's like, oh, yeah, this is amazing. Oh, he's a runner. I'll take a photo of him. And they're smiling and having fun and, and it just shifted this person's mindset a lot. So it's like, well, that was good. Keep using that.
Yeah, that's good. I did that with a runner. It was during COVID times actually, and she was having some big mental health issues, wasn't enjoying running. It was all too hard. And that's what we did. She was also a photographer, and she would take amazing photos, and we were all missing that as well. So on each run, I'd give her some things, some tasks to do. You need to get a photo of this, get a photo of the ocean, find a love heart-shaped rock, all that kind of stuff. So it took away the tediousness of the running and the lack of joy, and brought back that aspect of it. So we got over that little hump just by changing the focus of what the running is about.
Yeah.
Which was good. Yeah.
Speaking of changing focuses, so you already talked about the group runs. So are they at Tom Hunter?
Yes.
Do those? Okay,
Yep.
So Tom Hunter at Falconbridge. And that's what days?
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Right.
Yep.
So it's what we would call a track session?
Yeah, track session. Yep.
Okay. But beyond that, do you have organised like weekend runs, or how do you play that with the athletes?
Yes, so we have a face group And so people will share runs on there. So I don't do in terms of social runs. We might do I'll organise a social run maybe once a month. But I also do trail running clinics. So lots of women won't hit the trails because they're told that it's not safe for them. Don't go out by yourself.
Yeah, I hate hearing that message. Like, I know sometimes it can be true in certain places, but I just think in a lot of places it is safe.
Yep. And, there's snakes and you might get lost and, all of the things that you wouldn't say to a guy. So it is a bit intimidating. And for male road runners as well, getting out onto a trail. So we do trail running clinics, just teaching about navigation a little bit, what tools you can use to navigate if you can't use a compass and a map, which is 99% of people. How to, run up hills, down hills, technical trail, what kind of safety gear you should take with you, all that kind of stuff. So we run those as well. And organise. We usually do a couple of races each year where we have a big contingency of our athletes. So kind of doing training runs for that as well.
So do you drive that, or is your athletes all just chatting while, after the track session, you're like, oh, I'm going to sign up for this, or you're going to sign, and then you find out that you've got a whole contingent of people who are all interested in doing the same race. So then you're like, okay, let's do this en masse. Or
I kind of put little tidbits for people to, trying to encourage them to choose particular races. And some races lend themselves to just being a really good group run to do anyway. So UTA is perfect. Although we don't have as many athletes doing UTA now because there's so many races
there are
to
so
choose
many
from.
races.
It's incredible. Bondi to Manly is a big event for us.
Okay.
Because it's an ultra as well as being a two-person relay now and a four-person team. We can get a really big group of runners to do an event like that, and it's really social. And have either of you done that one?
Not yet, no.
No, Rob has done it a couple of times, I think, and I'm very keen.
Fantastic, yeah. Ridgy Didge, and then running wild events. So yeah,
that's what I was going to ask. What's your favourite trail run or race?
I have a few. I love Mount Solitary Ultra.
Yeah, okay.
That's probably the pinnacle.
Are you doing it?
No, too slow now. No, at the moment. So that's probably hands down the best run in the mountains, I think. And love Bondi to Manly, the ultra. Yep, for something different. So it's still a challenging race.
So it's organised well, all the kind of transition points.
It's
cool.
It's fantastic and beautiful. And it's always nice running somewhere differently to what you used to run.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of beach scenes from running in the mountains, do we?
Not a lot of
that coastal breezes.
Yeah, definitely. And I really like just doing adventure runs. So not an organised race, but something different. So earlier this year with a couple of friends, we went down and did most of the overland track. So we did about 65 Ks of the overland track.
In one day?
As a run?
Yep.
So fast packing-ish. Not really. You're still doing it in a day, aren't you?
Yep, definitely. Yeah.
Cool.
So kind of stuff like that's pretty good. Somewhere that's a bit more, adventurous and not as managed, I guess, in the terms of having all of the safety net of the race. Yeah. So
what's next for the next adventure then? Anyone's on the cards?
I'm doing Ridgy Ditch soon, and then hopefully back down to Tassie to do the 3 Capes in a day. Yep. Which will be a whole lot easier than the overland track. Yep. So, and then
because it's only, is it 40 kilometres?
Yeah, about that.
44 or something.
Yeah.
I know the first day is only 4 Ks when you do that as a walk.
So you can't do that as a run. You can only do that first section if you're on
the ferry. You could get the ferry across.
But you can camp up at the top and then do this beautiful loop that takes in all of the capes. Something like that.
Sounds good.
That sounds awesome. Yeah. I suppose you have to temper how many people you tell in your group, because otherwise you'll end up with 28 people wanting to join you.
No, that would be so quite select. So the overland I did with Yolandi and Az.
Yes.
And we had some friends who also came down and supported us. So, they're a good choice. They're very fast and very strong. Yeah. So
keeping running fun, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Now, you've had some men in Serotonin Running. Is that true?
That's a very forward question. Rob. You asked
No, because we were
Is it
talking.
women only?
No, we were talking earlier, and a lot of your answers had previously been purely, like, this is a running group for women, but yeah,
Yes.
I've known some people that you've also coached that are men.
Yep.
So you're not
I'm coaching
completely
a man now.
gender exclusive.
No, yep. So I'm coaching a man now, and generally the men I coach are the partners of women.
I did say that to Sarah because one of the person that I knew from a number of years ago was the husband of another athlete of yours. So I thought that might have been the tie in there.
But you're not averse to males if males are listening.
Yep. So, but men aren't going to approach Serotonin Running because I'm advertising the business as female specific. Yeah. So it's generally, so they don't come to group training sessions. Okay. Yep. But I do coach men as well.
All right. So if people wanted to reach out to you, how would they get in touch? Just find you, just Google?
Yeah, Google Serotonin Running. So we have a website, Facebook page, Instagram.
And Tuesdays and Thursdays at Tom Hunter Park are at what time?
6 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. on Tuesdays and 6 a.m. on Thursdays. And all of that information is on our website as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent.
Great. Well, thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having us. Good to have a chat. Always happy to chat running.
Excellent.